Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. What is the best way to destroy your own military? There are many ways to do it. There's defunding, there's put incompetent generals in charge, and then there's a methodology playing out very clearly in the Ukraine front lines, and it's called no retreat. So what is wrong with retreating? Well, in the Western psyche, Western methodology, you're supposed to be a tough guy. You're supposed to fight to the last. You're supposed to stay there in those trenches and supposed to be a hero. And you're supposed to wipe out the enemy when it seems absurd. So this is what we're seeing playing out in Pokrovsk. President Zelensky has ordered the Ukrainian forces to remain in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd until the last soldier, fighting until their last. So we all understand that Pokrovsk Mirnograd is a key city in this area, and if Pokrovsk was to fall, then certainly other key areas will fall, like Kramatorsk, Konstantinovka, Slovyansk. So you can say, well, they're between a rock and a hard place. If they pull out of Pokrovsk, if they leave that to the Russians, this gives the Russians a clear military victory in the year 2025, when until now they really haven't had any clear standalone victories. They've taken territory, but as far as key cities, key hubs, Pokrovsk is that claim to fame, so to speak, for the year 2025 for the Russian military. So the Ukrainian military has ordered the troops to stay, to fight, and to win. So but all we can see in the Pokrovsk region right now is that the urban area is being closed off and surrounded by the Russians, and the access, entry, exit point, and the area from which the supplies would come to these soldiers is being cut off slowly. And so when it's cut off completely, then their only option is to try to bring in supplies with drones. There's a drones called the Baba Yaga, which are big drones and can carry heavy weights, like ammunition or food. Food is heavy. So basic supplies, so that the soldiers can stay there and fight. But anyway, it's not sufficient supply to keep the troops supplied for very long. So it's really a short-term solution. Anyway, getting back to the point, what is the best way to destroy one's military? To order them to stay in an area where they can't win, where they're surrounded practically, where they're running out of supplies, where they're being targeted, where they don't have any room to maneuver, because as soon as they pop their head out, somebody's shooting at them, or they're dropping some explosive in their area. So anyway, what is the purpose? Why is Zelensky ordering these troops to stay there and fight? Well, of course, we all understand that this is a key city and a key hub, and from there they were organizing their defensive line, especially along Kramatorsk, Konstantinovka, Slovyansk. So yeah, they're between a rock and a hard place. We understand that. But if you leave soldiers in an area where they're going to be destroyed, then you've lost these experienced soldiers with the knowledge that they have. Experience, knowledge, all takes time, is basically irreplaceable. And what are you getting out of it? You're getting nothing. You're maybe getting another day or two. And possibly these soldiers would be taken prisoner, and then exchanged in a prisoner swap. But in any case, this all looks really um, very unmilitary like, because military generals and people who are understanding of strategy and tactics know when to make moves that could look like it's, what would you call it, not showing bravery, cowardice, um, but really these are very intelligent moves which preserves the military for a future battle when you're better prepared, when you're in a better uh, fighting theater, when the elements are in your favor. So the military retreat was carried out by the Russian generals when Napoleon was approaching Moscow. Basically, there was a large battle and there were a lot of deaths, and the Russian military was not able to continue to confront Napoleon, so they withdrew the forces that they still had, and they waited for a better day, better situation, and eventually that day and situation came. But it appears that in the Ukrainian leadership mindset, they don't understand anything like strategy, tactics. They just have this playbook. It's called gung ho, go all the way, your last drop of blood for the fatherland, some patriotic slogan. Anyway, this sounds nice on paper. It makes movies. It inspires songs, but it doesn't win wars. Win wars are people who use this over this. So, outsmarting, outsmarting a superior military when you are in a bad situation is smart tactically, and something that still hasn't been learned by Zelensky. And so, but who's giving Zelensky the order anyway to tell his troops to stay there? Because Zelensky is not a military expert. Is he consulting with anyone? Obviously, he has communication directly with the Central Command in Germany. So there must be a NATO general somewhere in Germany calling up Zelensky on the phone and saying, "Hey, don't let those guys leave. They need to stay. They need to fight. And if they fight, there's a possibility of winning." But anyway, if they're surrounded and they're outnumbered and they don't have bullets, they don't have food, they don't have shelter, then what is all this adrenaline seeking soldiers gonna do to try to win in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd? Well, so far we don't have an answer, and it certainly looks very clearly like the Ukrainian leadership is taking orders from some NATO general, maybe one of these that show up on TV once in a while and talk tough. The Russian military is incompetent. They could have a 10-1 advantage and they would still lose, or they could say, the Russian military is all marketing campaigns and a lot of hot air, but when you boil it all down, their military is incompetent. They don't know how to win wars. They just continue to throw their men on the battlefield like cannon fodder. So you get these possibly a TV general or a TV general wannabe, one of these generals sitting in Germany wondering why he isn't or she isn't on TV being interviewed and asked about the soldier ethos, and how important it is for them to be tough and to fight their way out of the jungle, so to speak, to defend themselves in impossible situations. So anyway, we have Zelensky, who's an actor, doesn't know anything about the military, about tactics, and he's uh, giving orders for soldiers to give their life in a useless defensive measure, which isn't going to win anything, it isn't going to achieve anything, and the only thing that will happen for Ukraine is that it loses soldiers. They'll lose experience. They'll lose that knowledge. All the training they had, and so, like going back to the initial question that I had when I began this video, what's the easiest way to destroy a military? Well, Zelensky is going to show you, and he showed you already, and he'll continue to show you. And as long as he's taking orders from some mediocre NATO general sitting in Germany, the situation is only going to get worse for the Ukrainian military. And as they continue to lose more and more experienced and knowledgeable soldiers who are replaced by soldiers who are being mobilized, many of which couldn't pass a physical test, and are mobilized, sent to the front line, not knowing how to operate equipment, not knowing anything about military tactics, and how to go about, defending themselves, not even mentioning carrying out offensive operations. So, anyway, this is how you destroy a military, and President Zelensky is clearly showing us how to do that. He will continue to show us how to do that until there's no more soldiers left to send. There's no more soldiers left to put in indefensible positions and say that they need to defend that to the last drop of blood. So anyway, take this for what it's worth, but this is a clear sign that the Ukrainian military isn't learning their lesson. It's not making any improvements on their tactical awareness, and others have, because they use this rather than this, then they were able to save their military for another day. We can also think about the Soviet army, which retreated so that it could rebuild and defend Moscow. Once it won that first battle of Moscow on the outskirts of Moscow, and they reinforced that that military victory with additional troops. Then they began to push the Nazis back all the way to Berlin. So one can say you're in an impossible situation. You can never recover. Well, if you don't carry out tactical retreats, you'll never recover. You won't have the possibility of another day. Your military will continue to shrink, and you'll continue to fill the ranks of the military with new recruits who don't have the experience, don't have the knowledge, maybe not motivated like the initial group of soldiers, and in the end, they will not survive very long. So the kill rate will go up drastically, and so you'll need to recruit more and bring in more and lower the standards for the soldiers you're recruiting. So you have people who can't walk, who can't, who are blind in an eye, who have auditory issues, who, have some ailment, maybe high blood pressure, maybe diabetes, who knows what. But anyway, the main point is here, the Russians are winning this war with intelligence, and the Ukrainians are fighting back with this, and that only lasts for so long. And when the big bombs start to fall, and um, when the highly reinforced defensive areas begin to fall, and the soldiers have to fall back to indefensible positions that aren't hardened to attacks and to bombs, and uh, then you have the worst combination possible. You have the inexperienced soldier in a poorly prepared defensive location without the knowledge to operate the equipment that needs to be operated. So you could have the Western countries filling Ukraine with howitzers, with F-16s, with um, with tanks. But if you have people you pull out of, you grab on the street or out of a city bus or from a gym or from some other location, you put a military uniform on that person and you send them to the front line and then tell them to operate the tank and then to coordinate that tank with other soldiers who are going to be reinforcing that position. Then you have somebody trying to do something, they have no idea what they're trying to do. So they may be able to learn one or two things of what that military equipment can do, but they won't know how to use it properly, how to make effective use. And so, the collapse of the Ukrainian military in the end will be very quick, because at the very end they will be left basically with the lowest level of soldier, no experience, no knowledge, no motivation, um, uh, not sufficient health, um, and so then all those soldiers are taking orders maybe from somebody who's a commander who was given that rank of commander, even though they don't understand tactics, they don't understand the use of the military equipment, and then there's kind of a level of incompetence, and then bad decisions are made, and then the Russian military will get up to speed, meaning that the Ukrainians won't have time to retreat and then set up a proper defensive line. So you can say, well, the drones change all of that. Well, they do change some things, but the essence of a good military is good military commanders leading knowledgeable and experienced soldiers, providing them with the right equipment and the right knowledge to use those, and then making good, logical, solid decisions. So anyway, um, I think the writing's on the wall for the Ukrainian military. It's just a matter of time. Some say, well, they would have collapsed by August. That didn't happen. So that means that, people are overestimating the collapse of the Ukrainian military. Well, it takes time, but we're getting close, and we can understand when those who command Ukrainians are telling them to stay in indefensible positions until the last drop of blood. Then the people leading the Ukrainians are incompetent, and maybe some are going to disobey the order, and they will try to find a way out. But those who stay will either surrender or be destroyed. So really, what did they achieve? Nothing. Um, so anyway, in conclusion, um, what is the best way to destroy a military? Well, you're seeing it in Pokrovsk, and you will continue to see that because we've seen that all along, and from the beginning of the special military operation until today. So it's only logical that we will continue to see this until the very end of the Ukrainian military when they raise the white flag and surrender. So anyway, that is my video for today. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have a comment to make, please leave the comment below. And I hope you can subscribe. That supports this channel. And so I look forward to seeing you back for future videos. So great. Have a good day. Bye-bye.